Namaskar. A very good morning, everyone. Welcome to the third day of ICORD 2025. And we hope you had very insightful days. The last 2 days were very healthy for you. And I'm Namya.
And I'm Tamim. We welcome you all to the third and last day of ICORD 25. So, to begin with today's keynote sessions, let me introduce the chair of today's session, Professor Prasad Onkar. Professor Onkar, Associate Professor at IIT Hyderabad. He earned his PhD in Computer Aided Design from IISc Bengaluru and holds advanced degrees in Product Design and Mechanical Engineering. Before IIT Hyderabad, he was with IIT Guwahati and a visiting researcher at Politecnico di Milano, Italy. Currently, he serves as the convener of Unnat Bharat Abhiyan and is a key member of IIT Hyderabad's Rural Development Center. Now I invite Professor Onkar to the stage.
I request Professor Onkar, the chair of the session, to please introduce and welcome the speaker of the day.
Hi, good morning. Welcome to the third day keynote sessions. And today we have lined up two keynotes from two eminent personalities. We will be starting with the first keynote by Dr. Arun Jora. So I would like to invite Dr. Arun Jora to present his keynote, and let me take this opportunity to introduce. It's an industrial keynote session. So Dr. Arun Jara is a visionary business leader with a track record of innovation and strategic excellence. He has expertise in AI, digital solutions, off-road and on-road mobility, EVs, hydrogen technologies, and connectivity, and many other things. With global experience across the US, Canada, India, and France, Dr. Jora has held leadership roles at Ford, Eaton, Mahindra, Michelin, and Hero. So currently he's with Hero Motors. He has led diverse team, nurtured emerging talent, and driven double-digit growth across industries. Dr. Jora holds global partner patents in EV technologies and is a trusted advisor to private equity firms, offering unparalleled insight and expertise. So with that, I invite Dr. Arun Jora to give his keynote.
Morning. First of all, I'm very, very delighted to be here this morning to, engage and interact with a very, very elite audience. Very different audience for me. I'm an engineer, design, a lot of, you know, gray matter and the right side of brain thinking that you have. So thank you again for having me here, Professor Amresh, Professor Prasad, and the team. Thank you for inviting me. So what I'm trying to go and do is in the next about half an hour or so to give you perspectives of the mobility in the automotive space, uh, show you some trends, just give you a sort of a feeler of what the trends are in terms of technology, in terms of the powertrains, the connectivity, AI, etc., and how we in the automotive industry or mobility industry actually harness these trends and engage with the customers. So my title, of course, is Smart Design. It's a cornerstone. Uh, this is the remote. Yeah. Cornerstone for sustainable mobility. So we want to be driving innovation in the Indian context. Ideas, the designs that create impact, and they are also customer centric. India is a very different ecosystem compared to the overseas ecosystems. Having worked in North America, in the US, in EU, in France, and other countries. and then coming to India and seeing how we engage with the customer, what do we provide to the customer, what is frugality, and what is something that enables mobility and the solutions that we have. Very, very challenging environment, I would say, and very large based innovation ecosystem that we have here. So, very important. It might sound like a very cliche statement, but it is something that is very important. We have to front load design brainstorming when we start the product inception, and we look at customer expectations and integrate them. Also, we look at the environment. It is not what it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 15 years ago. It is important for us to actually look at the environment as well, which some of us looked at it implicitly, some of us looked at it explicitly. So next time when we start doing design, or when we are doing it today, or even 5 years ago, what we want to do is proactively use smart data and advanced technologies to create a sustainable, efficient, and seamless mobility ecosystem that will become and drive the future of mobility all across, just not in India, but across the world. Give you a feel of what the mobility now, global mobility trends are. Very busy slide. I'm not going to go through each word here. Just kind of give you a feature. Let's look at 1 o'clock position. Connectivity. Connectivity is one of the biggest trends that is harnessing and growing at a very fast pace. And this pace is, by the time you blink, there is another innovation. By the time you blink, there's another feature. By the time you blink, the customer expectation has changed. So it's called CASE. So connectivity, electrification, shared mobility, autonomous driving. So these four pillars of case are the mobility trends. And in each of them, there are different layers, different applications, there are different aspects, there are different aspirations as well. And it's no more that an OEM, an automotive manufacturer, can do it all by themselves. There are partners where an automotive manufacturer is there. Like, for example, in Japan, if you see, there are OEMs married to Sony, who actually work together. There are partners in India here where you have OEMs partnering with the TCSs and the Infosys and others, actually enabling a lot of these software solutions and applications. So it's no more hardcore mechatronics, no more hardcore IT systems. It is a lot more than that. And that's where I will talk about cloud architectures and things like that going forward. So then, if you look at this is again a busy slide. I'm just going to look at the hexagons. Start at 11 o'clock. Trend one. What is this trend one? It's connectivity, rising of the embedded and telematics, whether it's an internal combustion engine or whether it's an electric vehicle, or whether it's a avatar of electric vehicles. You have fuel cell electric vehicles, you have hydrogen electric vehicles, you have hybrid electric vehicles, and a lot of OEMs have specialized and grown in these systems and powertrains. The trend two is advanced driver and rider assist systems. ADAS, ARAS, these are the acronyms that are used in the industry. You have ADAS in a lot of premium cars now, even in India. In the sub-premium cars also, you have them. People have worked on ARAS system, advanced riding assist systems on two-wheelers. In the Indian environment, it's very difficult to have an ARAS on your bike because your bike, there's too much happening around you when you're driving or riding. Obviously, the vehicle is going to keep sensing. In the premium cars, you do have it. And interestingly, it's irony that when you actually go to buy one of these vehicles, the service engineers will tell you, sir, if you want to drive in India, just switch off this button because your vehicle will not be able to travel because there's so much happening around you. There are at least 17 to 24 sensors around in your vehicle that will not let it move because of various obstacles. Then, of course, there's proliferation of color TFT, touchscreen, multi-information displays. And with the advent of over-the-air, FOTA, OTA, and the cloud architectures, these have grown a lot. No more is the day, when you actually were looking at analog systems, you're looking at user interface, UI, UX, which is digital. It's connected to the cloud, it's connected. You can actually mirror your phone on your bike or your car, and then have multiple layers to look at various aspects of the vehicle as well. You can actually look at the diagnostics of the vehicle. So this is something that is very important because we as uh, individuals have become very impatient. We want to know everything. What's happening to my vehicle? Why is it stopping? Why is it not accelerating? How much battery is there? How much fuel is there in the vehicle? So that is important. Also, if I have uh, geofencing, I want to be able to program it when I'm actually sitting in the vehicle or riding a bike. EV battery swapping technology. Uh, EV is on the rise. You've seen the announcement by the government, a lot of focus by the Indian government to put money in this area to boost this. Last 5 years, there have been different schemes where the government has given incentives to two-wheeler manufacturers, four-wheeler manufacturers, to the public transportation systems to enhance the penetration of EVs. Now, the battery swapping, of course, for a bigger vehicle, for a bus, for example, and a very impressive, all the buses that we took yesterday to the venue were all electric buses. Now, these buses have different ranges depending on the size of the battery, the kind of cell chemistry they are using, and things like that. But every 6 hours, 4 hours, 8 hours, depending on the size of the battery, you'll have to recharge them. So what you do is you take your battery pack, remove it, swap it with a charged one. Similarly, on a two-wheeler, there's a company in Taiwan who does this on a very, very regular basis for consumers like us. You actually go to the station, you put your credit card in, remove the charged batteries, put your uncharged battery, discharged battery, and you can swap it and you pay for it. Or you can go do charging. Just like you fill gas in our bikes or cars, you can actually go put in your credit card, keep your vehicle charged, go get a coffee, go do your shopping inside a grocery store, come back, and then take out your card, you get a charge to it. So this is something that is on the growth path as well. Solid state batteries. Now, there's a lot of work on cell chemistry across the globe. Solid state batteries are considered to be the next, I would say, big thing in the EV industry. A lot of companies are doing that. And a lot of OEMs are partnering with battery companies, putting in their money, investing their interest, and making sure that they get EVs that have longer range. One of the things in EVs, as you all know, and as we all know, is the range anxiety that people have. Now, how do we mitigate that? By coming with battery technologies which are much better in terms of energy density as well as power density. You can't keep adding batteries in the vehicle because it gets heavy. And heavier it gets, you lose your fuel economy. You reduce the life of the vehicle. And on a two-wheeler, there's no way you can put a lot of battery. The two-wheeler is about 100, kilos. You add another 20 kilos of battery, then what happens? It becomes very heavy. It's very difficult to ride a two-wheeler. Even today, when we target women customers, we want them to ride our bikes, more and more scooters. We want to make bikes lighter, scooters lighter. Also, people who are physically challenged, people who are, a little older in terms of age and can't manage these vehicles. For them, we want lighter vehicles. So this is it's a paradox. You want more range, you can't keep a heavier vehicle. You want more energy density, cost is high. Will my customer pay? Answer is no. Will I pay as an OEM? Answer is no. So how do we balance these paradoxes is something that is very challenging. Now coming to the 1 o'clock position, which is trend six, there are subscription plans to drive demand, battery as a service. You can have, don't have to buy the battery with the vehicle. You can lease it, pay a monthly charge for whatever it is, and so on and so on. Then there is a lot of in inner cities, call it or down south, inner cities have the cargo bikes. You call companies, they'll just come on the electric bikes, cycles, scooties, and deliver stuff to you right away. You want your child or your brother or sister or whoever to go to the tennis class, your tuition class, etc. You're using bikes, electric bikes. Lesser speed, lesser battery, lesser cost, more affordable, more sustainable. So that's another trend. And then we go to 3D printing to make passenger vehicles lighter and more economic. And this is interesting, on the bus that I was riding yesterday to the venue, our volunteer was Padmanabhan. Padmanabhan was there and he made us play this tambola. Very interesting. First time I played such a tambola. Uh, the words that he had on the tickets, or the team had on the tickets, were very interesting. There was 3D printing, there was customer centricity, there was rapid prototyping, etc., etc. And these are not just buzzwords, these are words of hygiene today. These are words that we really need to inculcate, whether we're doing powertrain, whether we're doing design, we're doing styling. Styling is an important part of it. Designing a vehicle is a very important part of it. And we'll talk about that as well. Then, of course, emergence of purpose-built passenger vehicles. Interesting, I was having a discussion with various people yesterday. And, can we have very unique concepts of vehicles, very unique applications of vehicles? Yes, we can. As OEMs, you can make a lot of these things. But as a customer, as a fleet operator, as a bus operator, as a school, as a college, will you be able to afford that? Not because you don't want to pay the money, but also you want to be able to service it. You want to be able to maintain it. You want to be able to operate it. So these are some aspects of that. And of course, hydrogen is another one. Uh, With the PMO's office, about 7 years ago, we put the hydrogen roadmap together. I was part of the core team. Now we have Gen 2 of the hydrogen roadmap. And now this is talking about green hydrogen, talking about how much hydrogen we actually use in mobility. When we built our first fuel cell hydrogen car at Ford in the US, okay, this was 2001, 2002, each car cost $1 billion. Now, this was not put by Ford or GM or Chrysler at that time. The government pitched in the Department of Energy. It was cost sharing this program. And we built hydrogen engine cars, we built hydrogen fuel cell cars. Now, coming ahead, BMW does a lot of work on hydrogen vehicles. Toyota does a lot of vehicle hydrogen work on buses. You go across, you will see a lot of the fuel cell buses. Now in India, you see a lot of hybrid buses and electric buses, which is very impressive. It is changing the ecosystem. It is changing the game. It is changing design. It's changing attributes. It's changing customer centricity as well. Right now, because it's expensive, it's all in public transportation because the governments, the public transportation system, the undertakings, they are taking the cost, or the government is absorbing the cost, for lack of a better word. So these are the global trends. Again, not limited to these. There could be a lot more, but we picked the top 10, and that's what we wanted to sort of give you a glimpse of. The other thing is generative design. Very interesting. Generative design is AI-driven approach to creating lightweight, efficient structures. Amazing. There are software like Hypermesh, Abacus, where you actually make a model, then you let the model run, and sometimes these models can take 24 hours, 48 hours. So the engineer actually, or the technologist, or the analyst actually makes these, sits on that, and the computers are processing, and these are heavy-duty, high-power computers. Now with generative design, what you can do is you do these designs in 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 6 minutes. You can do iterations. So you have to design a bracket. You have to style a vehicle. You have to style a bike. You can do it in like 5 7 minutes first cut, but then detailing takes time, of course. But even the first cut, a few years ago, took such a long time. You would go make a clay model, then you'll go change it. A lot of time, a lot of cost, a lot of iterations. The product development time for a vehicle, for a bike or a car, typically is about 4 years. How do we shrink it? We have all been pampered because by the phone companies or a lot of the FMCG companies. You know why? Pampered because every year there's a new model, every 6 months there's a new phone model. We got used to that. If we want everything fast, we want everything. Even a vehicle we want very fast. We want to change very fast. Can we do it? The answer is no, because there's a lot of cost involved. Versus, can we, however, can we actually increase the speed of launch? And that is something we got to do. If I don't do it, there's another OEM who will do it faster than me. Toyota takes 2 years to launch a product. Most of the OEMs take 4 years plus. Some of them take 7 years also. But again, it's also capability, knowledge base, etc., etc. But then there are a lot of these aspects that we've got to look at. So generative design and AI have changed the game now, literally changed the game. Then comes life cycle sustainability through design, recyclable materials, green manufacturing, supporting local suppliers with reduced carbon footprint, very important again. A lot of recyclable materials are used in the vehicle. There are norm now. There is a norm by end of life of a vehicle. The government has norms. European, American companies do this. Japanese companies do this. In India also, there are norms that come. There are norms in various cities where you can't use a diesel vehicle which is older than 15 years or 10 years. Different cities have. Delhi has this. BS4, Bharat Stage 4, Bharat Stage 3. If you have a BS3 vehicle, you can't bring it inside Delhi. You'll be heavily fined, and they'll also take your vehicle away. This is live. This is changing because there's a lot of pollution, there's a lot of vehicles. There's also safety aspects to the whole thing. Then comes modular and adaptable solutions addressing India's price sensitive market. Now, if we are going to design a product, and that necessarily doesn't have to be a vehicle, it could be a microwave, it could be a coffee machine. Some of us just need a basic coffee machine. I want to be able to make a coffee, and maybe once in a while make a cappuccino or a latte. Now, if I want to make that machine, it's going to cost me, I'm just going to throw a number, 1,000 rupees. Fine, you know what? I'll have a large customer base because a lot of us only want that. Now, but somebody else will want more features added to that. They will want to make it more stylish, more efficient. I want to make different kind of coffees. I want to be able to grind my beans and do this and do that. Cost will go to 5,000 rupees as an example. But if I merely make 5,000 rupees machines with all these features and processes, how many of us are going to actually buy? And why would we buy that machine if I just needed a coffee 2 times a day? Why would I buy something like that? So what we do, at least in the automotive industry and a lot of these industries now, even in the FMCG, They've been doing this for a long time. You have a menu-based modular system. You add Lego blocks, you add software solutions, add hardware solutions, and make the the product scalable, affordable, also make it very flexible. Even in terms of manufacturing, it becomes very easy. I'm making it look very simple, but yeah, that is life, and that's how it is. And that's how the products are becoming more and more modular and flexible. And these are very good also from a sustainability perspective, because there might be some parts structurally that you need to use, aluminum, or you need to steel, or you need some form of a hard material. But then there will be features and pieces in your product that you can make out of recyclable plastic, maybe a wood-based material, maybe a polythene-based material, and so on. And those aspects, those parts and components, we can make recyclable, so it becomes more sustainable. This is a very interesting slide, okay? And all of them are interesting. This is also one of the interesting slides. If you look at the global shift of transportation, in 2022, a lot of the people, a lot of the customers, I'm calling customers, all of us are customers, including me, okay? I'm a customer to something, you are a customer to something. So the private vehicles were 44% of the mobility share. Public transportation was 23%, and so on the numbers. Interesting to see the right bottom corner, ride hailing and taxi and new mobility were 2% and 1%. If you come to the bottom uh, boxes, the private vehicle is reducing. Most of us are walking away from the ownership model, and rightfully so. If you stay in a city like Mumbai or New York or London, okay, I'm just taking these three, or there are a lot of other cities, but let's talk about these three. You will not be taking these vehicles. I mean, first of all, finding a parking is difficult. You want to park a vehicle in the US, in New York, okay? For one day, it is $48. For half an hour, it is $20. And then if you go to London, there's a congestion fee. You bring a vehicle into the city, you pay that fee, plus you pay parking. And parking is difficult to find. So if I live in a city like that, I would actually, what I would do is I would rent an Uber, which a lot of people do, or I will have a share. There are a lot of these platforms where you can do car sharing. You pay a minimum fee and you share this. So people have walked away from the ownership model, and that's why you see the private vehicle percentage has gone down or going down. It will go further down. Today, most of us are moving away from renting versus purchasing. We don't want to purchase, but we want to rent. We want to lease, want to use and pay. The right word is use and pay. So that's one of the things. The public transportation, of course, is growing. Micromobility is growing. Walking, 15%. Okay, is good for health, etc., etc. But also, it's people are going on cycling, ride-hailing, taxis, new mobility. So this trend is changing very differently. And if this trend is changing, life is changing for all of us, just not the automotive manufacturers. All of us. And this is again another interesting slide, because if you see the India mobility trend, okay, the female labor force, and pardon me for the words that are used there, but the workforce is increasing. Every fourth person owns a scooter. There are 64% of them who are 30 years or younger. Scooter is a big market, growing market. If you see, most of the EVs in the scooters are scooters. It's a growing market, it's a big market. You look at some European countries, a lot of EVs, scooters. So there's a growing market, because, and then there we need to have automatic transmission, which we have. We have easy handling, ride comfort, superior versatility. You're talking about fuel economy, you're talking about convenience, and so on. And then again, why? Because getting public transportation is inconvenient. You will need to change, etc. We won't go into that. The other thing is the rural economy. The smartphone penetration is growing. With that growth, everything is changing. And that is one of the rural trends in India that we really need to keep an eye on, keep a pulse of it as we go. Adoption of EVs in rural market is growing again. Charging infrastructure is growing. The government is spending a lot of money, a lot of effort to increase the charging infrastructure. So that's the other thing. And then, of course, you have internet initiatives and so on. 5 more minutes? I had 23 slides. The opportunities in the new world, tightening regulations, paradigm shifting. We're talking about consumer experiences, sustainable new development. We'll skip this. Again, we're talking about technology, customer connect, innovation system, sustainability. Uh, Growth levers. I want to spend a little bit of time here. This will be interesting. Okay. How do you spot the trends? How do you stay ahead of the competition? How do you make, keep a customer focus? There's something called the quality function deployment. This is a tool, a very scientific approach to understanding the customer. It's the first hand interaction. You have teams going, when we did the XUV 500 at Mahindra, okay, that's just an example, or when we did the Ford Windstar, we had women customers, we had women users, we had engineers, marketing people, manufacturing people, quality people, all together go to different parts of the country, interact and hang out with customers, see what they want, what they don't want, what is their lifestyle, what are the uses, where do they keep their water bottle, where do they keep the coffee mug, where do they keep their documents, and how do we do various things. So this is something that we did, and in that process, you can see this is a bike, okay, very normal bike. You need a smooth silhouette. Why? Because we in India, right, with the child in the front, we have bags in the front, we have people in the pillion, so we need a flat. We can't have a very stylish silhouette, and especially when it's a commuter bike. We sell more than 20 million vehicles a year, two wheelers. So when you're selling so many two wheelers, and we are actually moving the economy, literally moving the economy. Look at this comfort and convenience. How can I actually get on a bike? How can I sit? There are three people sitting there. I don't want the bike's backseat too much here for a youngster, for a teenager plus plus. That's fine. You snugly hold each other and go. Whereas if your family is going to ride, you don't want, or an older person sitting with you in the back, or a child is sitting, you don't want that feeling. This is another interesting slide, talking about the actual things happening on the ground. A bike, which actually can take about 200 kilos, is carrying about 400 plus kilos. Your suspension breaks, your seats fail, your engine fails, engine dies in about 8 9 months. Suspension breaks every 6 months. So can we actually over-design vehicles? No. What we do then, for specific markets, we change the spring, we change the suspension, because we don't want to overload the cost. We also don't want to use extra materials. We're talking about sustainability, we're talking about green manufacturing, we're talking about life cycle assessment. This is a very new thing, I would say. In last year in July, we launched the Harley at Hero. Okay, Harley less than 3 lakh rupees. Harley bikes were costing more than 15 lakhs, 18 lakhs. So Hero partnered with Harley. We developed and designed and manufactured bikes here. So the most expensive bikes are about 3 lakhs rupees. A lot of customers who wanted to buy, people who aspired to own a Harley, started buying Harleys. And Harley basically had 25,000 bookings in 1 year, not even 1 year, in 6 weeks of when the bookings open. And they don't even sell so many bikes in 1 year, even in the US or even in Europe. So that was a complete mindset change and the market change. Again, this is a lot of detail, but these are early adopters, they're tech savvy customers, they're cost conscious customers, they're urban early majority customers, and all of these are embracing EVs and other technologies. Leveraging cloud connectivity, we talked about it. Cloud architecture, talking about smart systems, talking about connectivity, data lakes, talking about generative design. These are things that actually increase the speed to market. You do a lot of virtual engineering, you do a lot of computer-aided design engineering upfront to avoid making prototypes, testing, breaking. You lose a lot of time, money, speed to market. So do a lot of virtual engineering there. Sustainability, we talked about, starting from the 12 o'clock, we have to be collaborating with our suppliers, with our dealers, manufacturing. So when you design, style a vehicle, you actually manufacture, you are doing product development, you think end to end. I can design a beautiful vehicle, I can manufacture, come up with a beautiful vehicle, but if I'm going to spend 5x manufacturing cost, it's not sustainable. So we got to get the manufacturing engineers up front, get the suppliers up front, have everybody at the table, put their heads together, and then start designing products. Just not vehicles. This is applicable to all products, guys. I'm talking more from the automotive, but yeah, this is applicable to every product. Many times, when you make a simple thing, water kettle, the kettle that's in our rooms, you design a switch. The guy who actually has to do the embedded software and that little chip comes at the last, and then he's struggling to say, how do I actually design this switch and the thing? One moment, and put it into the kettle. So that's a sort of difficult proposition. So get him or get the supplier upfront. They do it for a living. They know to innovate. They know to actually do this development. So let's not do it as OEMs or big manufacturers. integrated value chain. We talked about this. So key enablers, I would say the road ahead is transforming India into a global hub of sustainable mobility. And let me close by quoting our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi. Our goal is to make this decade a tech decade. India's dream of decade will be fulfilled by its innovators and a strong R&D. So need to add Jai Anusandhan, research and innovation to the slogan of Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan. Thank you very much for your time and the patience. You can take questions.
Thank you. Thanks, Dr. Jora. In the interest of time, we will take one quick question. Somebody can pass the mic to.
Thank you for the presentation. I guess design can be interpreted as a way of problem solving. And quite often, we replace problem X with problem Y if we do not identify and act on unintended consequences of our proposed solutions. So I'm curious to know unintended consequences of electric vehicles. Will we replace problem X with problem Y by using electric vehicles?
So if I understood the question right, you're saying if we have a problem X, we don't find a solution, then we walk away from it and we start solving problem Y or another problem. I think that's not the best approach in the interest of the business and the customer, of course. There is something on the design of experiments, DOE, right? And being humans, one of our easiest tendencies is to go through the path of least resistance. I can't solve it, so forget it. We'll take something else and do something else. But I think the challenge or the opportunity is to be able to solve the problem itself and find a solution. Because when we are able to find a solution, we are ahead of the game in terms of, you know, launching a product or making a product or a service or a solution. So we don't sort of jump away from the problem because problems are going to be there. And that's why we are all there. We are here to solve the problems. We are able to integrate the solutions. Otherwise, all of us could be robots and, we could program ourselves. And the biggest challenge today, I would say, is being cost sensitive and cost competitive. I'll give you an example. You look at a Hyundai or a Kia car, okay? And you spend, let's say, I'm just throwing a number, 15 lakhs. A 15 lakh car will have 25 features. You look at another manufacturer, an Indian manufacturer or a Japanese manufacturer or an American manufacturer, and I would not want to take names now. If you put that in 15 lakhs, you'll only get 5 features. So for every extra feature, you're paying. So what one company has done is they've actually solved the problem of, cost. They've found solutions to technology, easy technology adoption, and made it convenient for a customer. So it's an easy choice for us, at least to start with, to say, I will take this manufacturer, this car versus this car. So I don't think it's the right approach to, if you don't find a problem, a solution to problem one, you will run away to problem two and then find solutions. Certainly you have to do global 8D, which is one tool. You have to go do design of experiments. They take time, but with experience and expertise and also doing the FME, the failure mode, and it's very important. And again, you have design FMEs, you have process FMEs. You got to do all of these. And again, it's hygiene for engineers and technology, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, Dr. Jawara will be there during lunch or after some time. Maybe those who want to interact, they can interact later also. But in the interest of time, we thank Dr. Jawara for the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank you,
this.
guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sure the audience found the session truly insightful. I request Professor Onka to please felicitate Professor Arun Jora. Thank you, sir. For the last keynote session of today, we have with us Professor Janet. I would like to request Professor Onka to please introduce the speaker.
Thank you. So Janet Allen is a professor of industrial design and systems engineering, and she also holds the John and Mary Moore chair at the University of Oklahoma. She received her bachelor's degree in life science from Massachusetts Institute of Technology and PhD from University of California, Berkeley. Janet's passion is to help others to create, archive, and transmit knowledge. She has an ongoing interest in simulation and modeling in support of design decision making, particularly as applied to complex systems under uncertainty, as well as she has long-term interest in improving design pedagogy and especially educating graduate students. She has co-authored a textbook, 5 monographs, and about 400 technical papers. So Janet is a fellow of American Society of Mechanical Engineers. So with that, I welcome Professor Janet Allen to give her keynote. Thank you.
It's okay. Okay. It would be a little better. Yes, please. Mhm. Okay. Thank you so much for inviting me to be here. It's indeed an honor. And so I look forward to talking to you a little bit about some work that we have been doing for about 10 years now. I want to acknowledge first my colleagues, Ashok Das of Sun Moksha, who is a social entrepreneur in India, and Farokh Mistry at the University of Oklahoma. So today I'll be talking about designing for service for communities at the bottom end of the socioeconomic pyramid. We'll be talking particularly about India because this is where we are. But it's a problem, a global problem. We have problems in the United States of similar sorts of things, South America, Africa, many places around the world. But again, today we'll talk about India. So when I talk about designing for service, I talk about designing to supply material in the future to people that don't have it. So in India, we have about 100 million people that are at the bottom of the socioeconomic pyramid. They live on, say, less than $1 to $3 a day. And this is, of course, a problem for everyone. These people are disproportionately rural. So there are people in the cities that have this problem too, but I'll talk particularly about rural because those are the people that I've been working with. Um, and we want to give them a hand up, not a handout. In other words, the traditional saying is you give a man a fish and he eats for a day, you teach him to fish, and they can live for a lifetime. So that's the sort of thing that we're thinking about. So the opportunity is to contribute to nation building, particularly in the rural sector. Thank you. Again, if it slips or something, we can adjust it further. If you have trouble in the back hearing me, please raise your hand or something so that I can communicate with you. We want to increase the disposable income of people in the rural area, particularly the micro entrepreneurs, those people that perhaps are buying a refrigerator for a grocery store or for uh, perhaps doing something like um, providing a printing service to print government documents, so that sort of thing. Not as complicated as you would find in the city, but certainly something that will bring in some income and encourage people to develop their skills and their abilities and challenge their work. So many of us here in the audience are associated with universities one way or the other, students, faculty, and so forth. So we can begin to think about what universities can do to help the situation. And I'll be talking a considerable amount about this, both for courses, for developing skills, and also for something called an extension service, in which people would be able to come to the university for advice. They would have then advice given to them, and they would develop things on their own. So we want to also, from the National Education Program in 2020, we want to have collaborations with faculty among different universities, with faculty in different places in the world. So, and we want to think about interdisciplinary activities. And this sort of thing is extremely interdisciplinary. So we'll talk, when we talk about designing for service, we want to move toward providing urban amenities in the rural environment, increase the disposable income of micro entrepreneurs in the rural sector, and designing, implementing, monitoring, expanding services in the rural sector. So that's what we'll be talking about today. So when you think about designing for service, there are a number of different kinds of service that are needed. Water provision and conservation, energy provision and conservation again. You can see all of these healthcare, capacity building, education, that sort of thing. All of these things are needed in the rural sector. And so we want to have a strategic approach. We can't do everything at once. So we want to think about how you develop and provide services to these sectors. Now, this is a little bit different than what many of us are used to, which is designing cyber physical systems. In this case, it's extremely important to consider the social component of what's going on. So we are now looking at the cyber physical social design, and we're looking for designing, which means that we're thinking about how we provide these things in the future, not necessarily based on historical information. So we think that in village we've got micro entrepreneurs to develop position to develop enterprises to raise the standard of living in their areas, and this will gradually bring capital to the village. And as it brings capital to the village, the standard of living will also increase step by step. So this is a systems problem, and it is developed but needed for sustainability. Okay, so we think about the following needs, the following requirements, the following constraints. So the foundational ideas are that Gandhi talked about self-sufficiency. That's what's needed in a village. Um, we talked about uh, uh, there was also a talk about Pura provisioning urban amenities for rural areas. Amartya Sen, capacity building, that is, he wanted to have people be able to do improved and new different kinds of things. So that's the process of developing and strengthening skills and abilities and so forth. And you can use these things then to advance the community forward. So these things are discussed here. And also, the UN has developed 17 sustainable development goals. So those things are also something that are ideal to have a sustainable system, not just one that it comes and goes. We are working now on a book to be published next year by Springer. I hope that you'll take a look at it when it's out. Empowering lives and catalyzing sustainable development. Sustainable development at the bottom of the socioeconomic pyramid. So this is Springer Nature, and the editors are here. So when you think about requirements that are needed for success, and you first of all you have to formulate the problem. What is your problem? Develop You need to develop it with the villages. Different villages are different needs, different opportunities, different governing structures. So different people are different, obviously. You also want to have an inclusive distribution of services. So it is not just for the few rich villagers, richer villagers. It is for everybody, a modicum amount. And then if you have an excess, for example, excess electricity, that can be purchased separately um, to encourage an entrepreneur in a particular kind of endeavor. We want to have something that is developed for long-term use. So that means it's modifiable, repairable, things are available often, and available for a long period of time. So also we want to have it maintainable by the people in the village. Now we also want to have a smart service. So what would happen is at the university level, the extension service could monitor what is happening and um, make suggestions, provide advice, but particularly give advice on maintaining the system. So it's a smart surface and it's monitored from elsewhere. So this is the idea of what would happen. So you can see on on the left-hand side, your left-hand side, you've got stage one. Perhaps you provide electricity, and that can give you light to make at night to make things safer. You can have education opportunities and that sort of thing, entertainment down there with television. After that, you may wish in a particular village to provide water using pumps with your electricity. So from there, you develop stage two to something called we call a smart nanogrid, where we allow the food production that we have made to actually be developed into products. So perhaps here you can see milling going on. There is a cold storage device that's operated on biomass that we've developed, and there is another food manufacturing process up there. And together, when you put all of these different things together, stage development, you have what we call a smart microeconomic zone. This is beginning to provide jobs for people. This is providing opportunities and at the same time is increasing the standard of living. So you can have smart health care, you can have more educational opportunities, you can have a market linkage if you begin to think about that. So you can uh, develop higher value products. So the idea is to move toward a community where you have producing its own goods and services and continually creating jobs for people to stay in the village, sell excess to outside people so you have some income coming in as well as staying in. You have want to train members of the community for economic growth to develop and maintain systems, and you want to have the wealth generated stay in the community and raise the entire level of the community. So that's the dream. Now, what can universities do about it? We designed for service. We have an ecosystem at a university, and we have a core value design, discover a way of learning and walk the path that walks the growth that opens opportunities for the future. So we can have a service learning program. So our students can actually use the village as a test bed for their ideas. Then we can have an extension service in which the university provides connection with technology and knowledge with the villagers, and that works out well. So we want to have people working in harmony, the university, the villagers, the other stakeholders, faculty, students, and so forth. And these would be in the institutes of technology and engineering, particularly. So um, we have potential stakeholders, faculty, staff, and students. So that those are the first obvious people. Uh, and we have perhaps incubation centers here that will help uh, people transition their ideas into marketable products. We want perhaps student startup and innovation programs. So there can be a 9 month or a longer in innovation program. So incubation and then transitioning that out to the university. Um, Rural community, they could be involved. You could bring people in for training from the university, from to the university, and have them learn how to maintain their equipment. Partners, so we have various different NGOs that can be partnered with this. And you can have, of course, more than one university involved, and funding agencies, CSR contributors, foundations, and so forth. So we think about experiential learning, service learning program. So this would be a program that is developed by actual hands-on activities. So is designing for service. So the services are the primary objectives. You notice I'm not saying a specific product here. I'm not recommending something that is um, uh, perhaps advanced material, most technology driven, but thinking about what will provide the most reliable, resilient service to the villagers. We want to have academic training that includes service design, academic learning, designing again to include uh, and address challenges, these challenges, and we want the village to be the living laboratory. So the extension service, we would have an extension service that would support incubating, starting, and launching startups. So that would be one of the activities of the extension service. So the university service students and the rural micro entrepreneurs would be involved with this. And we want to have the university extension service monitor and deploy assets, so know who's able to do what and how they're able to do it, and provide advice as appropriate. And it would serve as a hub for knowledge distribution and dissemination, appropriate skill development, and community engagement. So that's the sort of thing that we're thinking about for the extension service. So here we're thinking about developing this in steps. First, of course, you would like to decide where you're going to do your activity. So in this case, we'll talk about in the first phase, rural and agricultural. That's just a demonstration. Of course, you adjust it for anything you want. So you start with knowledge and skill building in step A. B would be transforming that into action, making something happen, and then communication and outreach. So that's the stages that we're thinking about developing this. And here you develop first your ecosystem with academic series of courses, structured training modules, laboratories, tinkering laboratories, and of course you have some timelines and some strategic objectives. So then you have professional ecosystem. You need some funding support, student support, mentoring to have them develop their companies, guidance from experts, and that sort of thing. And then we have risk mitigation, funding stream, so entrepreneurs can do this in the early days, and outreach. So that's what's going on here in step A. So we're building the ecosystem first and then skill building. In section B, we would want to get some action. Okay. So we have the community extension service. So we would have micro entrepreneurs involved in that. And as well, we'd have other stakeholders, the rural urban stakeholders, the administration, technology for life cycle, and an incubator. So incubator for developing ideas and moving them out into um, public. And again, that's part of the extension service. Then we have moving on to the third thing, which is funding possibilities, communications and outreach, CSR, government schemes, foundations, and so forth. So those are the sorts of things that we are thinking about. And to summarize things, we start with A, knowledge and skill building, designing for service at this university, XYZ University, and starting with facilitating education, mentoring on micro entrepreneurs, not small and medium enterprises, you notice, but micro entrepreneurs, the people that are really starting very, very small things, perhaps handicrafts at the lowest level of community. Then we move on to service learning programs and extension service. and mentoring and financial services. To communications and outreach, we want to raise funds. We want a newsletter, perhaps. We want social media involved so people know what we're doing. And we want to then put it all together and have a cycle of these things continuously developing to make it happen. Okay, so that's our university ecosystem coordination committee. We need to overlook and monitor the implementation of all of this. And so this is what the kind of thing that we've been thinking about. So we want to have a conversation about this. We're looking for people that are interested in partnering with us. So our email addresses are down here, you can see, and certainly happy to talk at lunch or otherwise. We want to think about whether the university should proceed with this or how the idea could be improved or enhanced. We want to know if you think it should not work or what the difficulties would be, how we can improve this. What are the next steps? And what would we do to accomplish this? So with that, I think I would take some questions.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for the nice presentation. So yeah, we have a few minutes. We can take a couple of questions. Yeah. Yeah, maybe let me ask one question. Um, so, how are you trying to look at its translation into um, the micro entrepreneurs? How do they benefit from this? What makes them to get into this program?
Let me, I think I just switched off the presentation. I was going to go back and do the slide that I had the things, there they are. So here is what I see happening. I see can happen. So if you slowly develop things, in the first instance, you might charge a small fee for your education service here at the there. Not necessarily a large fee, but enough to make people interested in actually doing the work. So sometimes if it's free, they ignore it. So, or you might like to have the fee for the water delivery. And if you have water, you can actually produce better crops, more crops. So then they would perhaps pay the fee for that. So each step is not free. It's not a handout. It's a helping hand. So again, you improve your food. You can, you grow it and then you make it into something that's marketable and say millet or whatever. So again, that's the service. You provide the service, you get a fee for that, and again, the economics improves and improves and improves. So that's the kind of thing that we would be thinking about.
Okay. Yeah. Can somebody?
Namaste. Earlier, the rural economy was interdependent, self-sustaining economy.
I'm sorry?
The rural economy in India earlier
Yes.
was a interdependent and self-sustaining economy.
Mhm.
Are you including that model in this? And what is the impact it is going to create towards the handcrafted products?
Um,
Because some of them have already become extinct and some are on the verge of extinction, and which is a major threat that is happening because it is part of the total society building activity.
mhm. So let me try to answer that question. So yes, we're thinking about the rural economy. And if you think about the rural economy, a good part of the rural economy now is handicrafts. And so one of the things that could be done is connecting people with markets. Okay. Now, you may or may not choose to use the particular service. I know you like to market some of your own things, but marketing things, ensuring quality, or maintaining quality can be something. If you need to have a particular kind of thing um, provided to accomplish whatever it is you do, you can't find suitable carving equipment or something. You can maybe bring it from a different part of India if you know where to go for it. So those things, I believe, could be facilitated through an extension service. Does that help?
I'm sorry, I have a difference of opinion for that. Down the line, what I foresee is like you don't have too many people really practicing the craft.
Mm,
There's a major challenge that we are going to face now.
yeah,
It's not that people are producing and there's not much of a sale, but year on year, the number of people stopping practicing the craft is increasing. It is as low as minimum about 4 to 5% to as high as 20 above.
yeah.
So from each craft, more than 20 odd percentage of people are moving away.
So let me answer your question. The question you have raised is there disappearing arts and crafts.
Yeah.
If people wish to preserve them, then this model will work.
Thank you.
The important thing is for the person to feel, yes, I want to do it, it's worth doing it. If it is not worth doing it, it will not work. Our role here in the university industry, university village perspective is to provide you with the opportunity. You come to us and say, here's the village, here's the thing. We can then organize, or the university folks can organize to make it happen. The initiative has to come from you. You don't ask us, how do you do it? We provide you, you tell us what is needed, and we will try
Yeah.
and provide it for you.
The general sense is artisan, he's not really well educated, not aware of all the existing ecosystem,
No,
and
listen
he
to
will not
me.
approach.
I've heard what you said. What I'm saying is, we empower you. You come and tell us. I know the artisan is not done.
Maybe
You
we would talk in
organize the
person, not in.
artisan to make
Yeah.
it happen.
I think
Okay.
But
good.
my belief also is that if it's more economic opportunity in the village, people will want to stay there. They will not necessarily have to move to a city to where they have to travel a long distance or do whatever for work. Stay
Okay.
away from their families.
Yeah.
The Nobel Prize for Economics recently. And what they studied was poverty and how to get rid of poverty. And what they found was that if you give people a disposable income, the people will respect themselves and take charge of their own lives. And in so doing, they will say, hey, I want to invest in my community. I want to invest in my children. I want to invest in my grandchildren. So giving them the opportunity to increase their disposable income is the motivation. If that doesn't happen, it doesn't work. And the anchor for that is Banerjee and Duflo, Nobel laureates. Can't argue with them.
Okay. Yeah, I think we can take this offline, and maybe if there uh, are there, yeah, one last question. Yes. Yes.
Hello, sir. Pardon, sir.
Please be brief and quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, according to the current policies and the system that is existing, the financial system that is existing for the artisans, they offer loan at 9.5 interest, which is very difficult for the artisan to produce within that 2 to 3 months limited period, because one sari or one piece that they are creating requires that amount of time to give the qualitative output that is expected. So, how would this model help in that?
So, do you want to answer?
What you're saying is, here's a problem, fix it. We are saying, here's a systems perspective. And yes, this needs to be dealt with. How does that happen? What we are talking about when we provide a service is, hey, guess what? The artisan pays for the service that he or she can pay for. The capex comes from CSR, the government, banks, etc. So it's a different model, designing for service. We give you the service, and the previous gentleman talked about battery replacement as a service. That's the model that we are looking at. You are the artisan. We are providing this light bulb for you. Pay us a certain amount. The capex comes from CSR, government, financial foundations, and things like that. It's a different model.
Okay. Yeah. Uh, with that, yeah, I think maybe we can continue. This is the very interesting discussion and very relevant to the Indian context. So I think we can continue this. Maybe in the interest of time, we'll close and thank Professor Janet for this keynote. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I now request Professor Omkar to please felicitate Professor Janet.
Thank you. Thank you. Ah, good.
Thank you, sir. We now have some announcement and I request Professor Omkar to share more.
Yeah. So one small announcement for the service design conference, as it was informed the yesterday, day for yesterday. As part of the conference, we are launching a student design competition, and the details will be available on the website. So we thought we will announce this. There's a student design competition which will be open for all the registered students, and there are different themes and topics which are available on the website. You can look at that, and then yeah, encourage all your those students and faculty who are there. You can encourage the students to participate. The dates are it's actually open from today, and by February 15th you have to register, and then uh, the submission deadline is June 15th, so you can start working on that. Yeah, over to you.
Thank you, sir. This brings us to the end of today's keynote sessions. A big thanks to Professor Omkar for chairing the session. May I please call upon Professor Amrish Chakrabarti to please felicitate Professor Omkar for chairing the session. Thank you, sir. Before you all disperse, I have one request for you all. We would love to have some feedback from you all. So please share your experience at the feedback posters put up near the registration and cafeteria area. And we now have a 1 hour lunch break. Post that, we will have a panel session and parallel sessions at a very strict timeline. And at the end, we will have a valedictorian closing ceremony. In case you have any further doubts, the details of the valedictory panel session and the workshops, everything will be available at the registration desk. And feel free to contact the volunteers around you. See you all next session. Thank you.